Hey everybody, it has been a while since I've made a video. Apologies for that, and I'm going to start off with a late video. Yes, this is going to be my what I read last month in February, as well as what I'm planning to read in March. And here we are. It's almost been March, so I'm a bit behind on this one. But let's start first with what I read. And if you've been following this channel, you'll know that I read The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It was a painful month. Now, I'm not going to say that the book was the worst book I've ever read. I know a lot of people on YouTube I think there's even one video I saw that said, Fourth Wing is worse than Cancer. I can assure you it's not worse than Cancer. Is it a good book? No. I have some questions, I have some observations, but don't worry, I'm going to put a formal review together. And I've been kind of also recording these little, I guess they're sort of vlogs. They're not me walking around the neighborhood or the city talking about the Fourth Wing or anything like that, but they're just kind of my thoughts that I gathered while I was reading them. So I divided them up into thirds, I believe, and kind of talked about, just my first impressions, things that really stood out to me, things that surprised me even. So we'll get to that video as well. I have to record one more part of that, and then I can just edit together. But then, like I said, I'll put together a formalized review as well. So the second book I read, and this one was, I barely finished it because The Fourth Wing was a tough one. It was just, I'll get to it in my review. A Dark and Hungry God Arises by Stephen R. Donaldson. This is part of his Gap series. And while I love the first book so much, it was like a breath of fresh air, you might say, in the sci-fi genre. It felt like stepping back to a better time when science fiction was science fiction, right? And so I continued with the series. I did a whole read-along book club and a review and all that, and enjoyed book 2. It started expanding on things. Enjoyed book 3 for the most part, but these books are getting longer as the series progresses. Now, I know a lot of people out there are fans of longer books. Me, however, not so much, unless I'm really, really engrossed. And I think that was kind of the problem I had with this book, which is why I'm going to take a break from this series for a little bit. Because this book, while the concepts are interesting, I really like what Donaldson is doing here. He's cleverly expanding the story with, the three main characters, Angus, Morn, and Nick Scorso. And adding, like I said, adding a secondary cast of characters and bigger plots and so on and so forth. However, he's maintaining that somewhat intimacy of these three characters. So I really appreciate that about it. But what bothered me about the book, and I started noticing it in the second book more so, or not more so, but that's when I first started noticing it. And then the third book, it became exhausting to read. It became tiring because it reminded me of, I'm sure you know somebody out there where you're having a conversation with them and you know what they're getting at. You know what they're trying to say, but they're beating around the bush. They're using far too many words than they need to use. They just like spit it out, spit it out. I know you guys out there have had a conversation with somebody like that, or maybe one of you out there are that person. Anyway, that's how I felt about this book. There's a lot of, and I'm not going to do a review on this. I think when I get through the series, I'll probably do like a review of the entire series. But there was a lot of times where I listened to the book mostly in my car while I was driving, and I kept saying like, I get it, Donaldson, just spit it out, just say what you want to say and finish it. And really it's in the form of characters' internal monologue. And I don't mean like the hyphen or the italicized words that are the direct thoughts, but more like the narrative internal monologue. So it's in third person POV, but it's really monologue. It's internal. I can speak, I swear. Internal monologue. And what it was doing is it was recounting, it was these characters processing everything that was going on. Things that we already knew because, again, we are experiencing the book through multiple POVs. And I know I talked about this a lot in my Gardens of the Moon book review, my quitting review. This isn't like that, though. It's not that bad, not by a long shot. But it's so excessive. I feel like you probably could have cut 25% out of this book, because what I love about reading fiction and watching movies, even storytelling in general, is when the author or the director, whoever it is, gives you enough to infer what's going on, right? It's the subtext that you absorb and you're like, oh shit, I really get what's going on. And it's there has so much more weight to it than when you get every little detail of a character processing something, what they're going through, what they're going to do, what they're thinking about, the whole thing. And it got, like I said, it got tiring, it got boring, and granted, I still like the characters, I still enjoy the plot, but man, oh man, was it kind of a slog toward the end there, and I had to kind of power through it, and I was just sort of over it. But anyway, again, I don't want you to think I don't like the series. I don't want you to think I don't like the book. I still like it, but I need a break. And this is probably the reason why I don't read series, because I often get tired of the same characters over and over and over again. I often get tired of the same dynamics. That the story, it's revolving around the same stuff, and it's funny because I don't feel like I have a short attention span most of the time, but for whatever reason, I like to jump around with books. I don't like to stick in the same genre, which is kind of ironic because I'm going to talk about a single genre I'm going to read this month, or I am reading this month. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, maybe it got me thinking, maybe series really aren't for me. I know I say that all the time, but this really illuminated that because, Donaldson is an accomplished writer and I like a lot what he's doing, but it got a little bit old. So if you've read this series out there and you felt the same thing, I'd love to hear it because, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to take a break from that. I don't know when I'm going to come back to it, but speaking of what I'm going to read this month, I know that was a long introduction, a long discussion for 2 books, but it's going to be sci-fi month for me. And I appreciated all of the suggestions you guys put out there. I put out a post asking, what are some great sci-fi reads? I'm not going to get to all of them this month. So what I think I'm going to do is carry them into next month because I think I have about 8 books or so, maybe 9 books that you guys suggested, in addition to the ones that I'd already been reading. So let us begin with the first book. And I actually already read it. Thank goodness, because it's March 12th at the time of this recording. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I'd never read Kurt Vonnegut whatsoever. I've owned this book for a very long time. And Helena out there, she suggested it. And as a nice palate cleanser after reading The Fourth Wing, and it definitely was. 200 pages long. It was funny. It was inventive. It was like nothing I've read in a very long time. And so I really enjoyed it. There's some... Anyway, I'll get into it when I talk about my review about the book. But yeah, overall, good stuff. Let me know have you read Slaughterhouse-Five? What do you think of it? In fact, what are you reading right now, or what do you plan to read for the rest of the month? But yeah, I'm glad I finally read that one. I read it actually in, well, not one sitting. I was on a plane, a very long plane flight, and finished it on the plane in one go. So the next book I'm reading, and I'm actually reading it right now. I'm probably 2/3 of the way through it. That is called The Strange by Nathan Ballingrud. Ballingrud? I think it's Ballingrud. Maybe it's Ballingrad. I might have written it down wrong. But anyway, I think I saw the review on somebody on my Discord server mentioned it first, talking about how it had great writing, and I was like, oh, okay. And I read the description, and I thought it sounded cool. It's about this girl. It's weird. It's like an alternate history. I think it's like the 1930s, but everybody's on Mars. And there's like an atmosphere. You can breathe the air. You don't have to walk around in a suit. So it's very much inspired by Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. Because if you've never read that book, there's no real science to it. It's science fiction because it takes place on another planet and it uses speculative aspects, right? When he's exploring the stories and the characters. But there's no like hard science to it. And that's exactly what's happening here. It's about a girl. She runs a diner with her father on Mars, and some bad folks show up. It's very Western inspired as well, specifically True Grit, which I didn't read about. I just kind of inferred it, and then I looked it up. I'm like, sure enough, True Grit. So it's kind of a revenge story in a way. It's about this 14-year-old girl going off to, I don't want to say avenge her father, but I won't spoil it for you. But the problem I'm having with it is it's leaning on its influences too heavily. So The Martian Chronicles, very much so. True Grit, very much so. There's also Dune references. So there's an ore that people are mining, a substance people are mining, like the spice, right? But it's called the Strange. And get this. So the miners, their eyes turn kind of green because they're exposed to this material. just like, you know, the eyes of the people on Arrakis turn blue when they're exposed to the spice. Yeah, it's kind of bothering me a little bit, and there's a little bit of a C-3PO vibe going on as well. She has a robot companion. Anyway, I know I'm getting far too into it. This is probably, I'm gonna have to save it for the review, but it's funny reading a book that you read the description and you're like, holy shit, this is the book I've been waiting for in the science fiction genre for me, right? I love these kind of soft sci-fi, let's call them, stories that are character driven, that are kind of genre mashups. But anyway, a little bit disappointing. I know SSF 180 loved it. That's another reason why I decided to pick it up. I almost was going to quit it. I know, I was almost going to quit it, but I'm going to push through. I'll let you guys know how it goes in review. But let me know if you've read that book. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. The next book is one of your suggestions out there. That is The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. I know that one was lower on the list of comments, but I bumped it up because for years I've been meaning to read that book. It's always been in the back of my mind. I bought it so long ago. It won the Hugo. I know that doesn't mean much anymore, but maybe back in the day it did. I think it's over 20 years old. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to that one. Normally I don't like military sci-fi, but something about it gives me hope. I don't know. And then I think the final book I'm going to read this one. God, I swear I could talk. The final book I'm going to read this month is Light by M. John Harrison, and that is by a request by my friend Britton here, some Okie dude. He just reviewed it on this channel, so go check it out. And he liked it. He liked it a lot, and he's been talking to me about it for a long time. And I said, you know what? I should probably read it. So I'm going to bump that one up. The other ones on the list that I'm going to get to next month, probably Semiosis, Blindsight, the Invincible, Recursion, and The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, but we'll get into that in the next video. So those are the books. Granted, if I do make it through all these, I'll probably try Semiosis because that was the next one down. Either way, I'm going to get to it. Again, it's another book that I've had on my list for a long time. And isn't that weird how like you see a book, you add it to a list because you're excited about it, and then you don't read it for years? I know, it's kind of stupid, but here we are. But that's it for me. That is my recap of February, what I'm going to read this March. And let me know. I'd love to hear what you're reading this month, what you're planning to read, what you'd like to see me to read on this channel, you know, outside of these books I've mentioned, of course, because I'm always looking for suggestions. I love the variety of tastes out there in the comments, so I appreciate it. Keep them coming. And now I guess it's time to go work on a review for The Fourth Wing. Or maybe I should do Richard Gavin's Grotesquerie first. I don't know. I'll think about it. Whatever I'm in the mood for. Anyway, thank you for hanging out, sticking with me for this little break of 2 weeks. And thanks for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.